So if you look at John chapter 10, verse 10, and I want to challenge you, try to memorize John 10, verse 10 during this week. So next time when I come again, I'm going to ask you, what is John 10, verse 10? And we must answer eagerly. John 10, verse 10 says, "The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I came that you might have life and life abundantly." Jesus says, "I came that you might have life and life abundantly." So when Jesus speaks to the followers in John 10, he says, note that there's a reason why I came. And the reason why I came was to give you life and life abundantly. However, there's a thief, somebody that's opposed to what I'm doing. And the thief will come to kill, steal, and destroy. But I came so that you may have life and life abundantly. So that's a verse I want you to try and memorize and keep in your mind, because it tells us that there's hope, but there's also a fight going on. There's someone fighting to kill you, to destroy you, to break you down. But Jesus says, I came so that you may have life and life abundantly. Or I came so that you may have life and life to the full. Now you can ask me the question and say, but Maruti, you might not have realized the readings that we read today. John 10 wasn't one of them. But the reason why I want you to remember John 10 is because if you backtrack to Deuteronomy, Moses does an interesting thing. Moses have led the Israelites for 40 years through the desert. And now they are standing on the banks of the Jordan River. They can see the Jordan River, and they are aware that if they cross the Jordan River, they'll be in this promised land that God has promised them. And Moses, as he looks at the Israelites, he says to them, people, I need to give you a choice. You need to choose between two things. You can choose life, or you can choose death. You can choose a blessing, or you can choose a curse. The life and the blessing is when you choose God. Choose to walk in obedience to God, Moses says. Choose to walk with your eyes focused on God. Jesus says the same thing. He, being God, says he came so that we can have life and life abundantly. Like Moses, Jesus is saying life is found in God, not in the world. Like Jesus, Moses is saying, you've got two choices. You can either choose life or you can choose death. You can either choose a blessing or you can choose a curse. The blessing is found with God. Life is found with God. Jesus says life, abundant life, is found with him, him being God. And so as we face the challenges of each day, it's not really about winning the lottery. It's not really about getting all the money we want and to having this comfortable life, because Jesus says to us, real life is found in him. And so the challenge put before you and me this morning is, won't you choose to walk with God? Won't you choose to keep your eyes on God? Won't you choose to trust him as you go into your tomorrows? And then as we continue to look at the scripture, we find Paul saying it's not about your human leaders. It's not about who told you about God. All of us are called to plant a seed. All of us are called to water the seed. But the God whom we serve makes that plant grow. All of us, Paul says, or say we are Christians, are seed and plants and fields that God develops and grow. And so the thought that Paul wants to plant in your heart and my heart is, as believers, we must grow. God brings about that growth. But the growth starts with you and me choosing to walk in obedience to God. The growth starts with you and me choosing to follow God. And in this world that we live in, Jesus comes and says to you and me, you've heard that it was said, you shall not murder. But it's more than that. It's about how you treat your brother or your sister. It's about how you interact with the world out there. If somebody hurts you, Jesus says, go and make peace with your brother or sister. He doesn't say if you have hurt somebody. He says if your sister or brother has a grievance against you, it's not you having a grievance. I did him nothing. But you and I are called to go and be the peacemakers. You and I are called to live in a different way than the world lives. I've recently seen a video circulating where two girls are fighting. And there's a racial thing in the video. It's a white girl and a black girl fighting. And they're fighting. And a white woman comes past and she motivates her daughter to go and kick the black girl in her face. And the fight just continues and nobody's stopping the fight. And so the person that sent the video says, please let us motivate our children not to get involved in things like this and to speak out when people bully you and fight against you. And then somebody responds and says, but have we noticed that the video is not South African? It's an English video, a fight taking place in England. And this person that looks at the video or talks about the video says even it's in a part of England. They identify the place in England. I don't know England from anywhere. But if you listen to the words, you can hear it with an accent. You can look at the buildings and you can see it's somewhere not in South Africa. But that video was used to try and create racial tension in South Africa amongst us. And God is saying to us, we must be peacemakers, not instigators of war. We must be the bearers of His light. We must be His salt. We must be that city on a hill. You and I are called to be peacemakers. You and I are called to be those who bring God's love into a situation. Some of us specialize in creating fires. Have you ever noticed how easily some of us can just create a fight? And then we stand back and we look at them. Check how they're fighting. You're these people. But it's actually me that started the thing. Have you heard what that one is saying? Are you going to leave him to say that about you? Everybody can walk over you, or you're just going to do nothing. God is saying in that situations, my love must shine through you. You and I should be peacemakers. You and I should strive for harmony. Jesus says our lifestyle must be so different than the world's. So what do I want to leave with you today? God is saying to you and me, irrespective of our age, irrespective of our culture, God is saying to you and me, choose life, and life is found with Him. And God is saying to you and me, take that life into the world so that others can see me in you and be drawn closer to me, so that they too may know that they've got a choice. They don't have to look like the world. They can choose to look like me. They can choose life. And know that it's not just about what's happening in this world. Jesus says, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I came so that you might have life and life abundantly. Moses says, the choice is before you and me. Choose life or choose death. Choose a blessing or choose a curse. We choose life every time we say, I choose Jesus. I choose to walk with Jesus. I choose to walk in obedience to Him. And irrespective of what happens in this world, irrespective of what happens in my house, irrespective of what happens in my school, I will be the bearer of love. I will be the peacemaker. I will be the one standing for God. And let me be honest. As soon as you say, I stand for God, guess what's going to happen? The thief is going to say, so you're opposing me, and I will attack you. Someone once said, if you don't suffer any attacks from the devil, you might not be standing for God, because the devil will fight against you if you stand for God. But God says there's life and life abundantly with Him. So as we stand for God, as we stand for Jesus, know that He comes and He strengthens us. He gives us the strength to stand for Him. And we can stand. All we need to do is just to trust God. Trust God. St. Peter writes, resist the devil and he will flee from you. As we stand for God and we resist the devil, we don't give in to these temptations of the world, the devil will flee from us. So, my brothers and sisters, in conclusion, what will you choose? God is saying to you and me, there's a choice that you have to make. You and I can choose life, or we can choose death. We can choose a blessing, or we can choose a curse. Afrikaans speakers talk about a draadsitter. A draadsitter is somebody who doesn't make up his mind either way. I'm on the fence. The fence, there's no fence. It's either life or death. So as I conclude, I'm reminded of a story. They say there was this huge gathering of people in a field, and Jesus came into the field, and he stood on one side of the field, and the devil came and he stood on one side of the field on the other side. So the two of them were standing on opposite sides of the field. And Jesus said to the people, you can choose who you want to come to. You can choose to come to me, or you can choose to come to him. And the devil says, yes, you can choose to come to me, or you can choose to go to him. And the people were challenged to make up their mind. So people were choosing, and they went to the one side or the other side, and they went to the one side or the other side. There was one guy who stood in the middle of the field, and he just stood there. And Jesus said to him, you can choose to come to me. And the devil shouted, you can choose to come to me. And the guy stood there. And eventually Jesus and the people that went to Jesus moved away. And the guy stood in the middle of the field. And the devil came up to him. The devil took him by the hand, and the devil pulled him to his side. And he said, no, I'm not on your side. I chose to stay in the middle. And the devil looked at him and said, the middle is mine. By not making up your mind, you are making up your mind. God says the choice is yours. Choose life and stand with me. There's abundant life with me. Or choose death and stand on the other side. Death, destruction is on the other side. Separation from me is on the other side. The choice is yours. What will you choose? My prayer is that all of us will say, I choose life. Amen. Amen. I like that little one.